conventional explanation is always going to the term mythology. They
Right.
throw mythology around, left and right to cover up the fact that they have no clue or idea. So they turn it into mythology so they can kind of say it's all fantasy and fairy tales, and this is how they express themselves or how they understood the universe.
Have you ever heard of a book so mysterious that it vanished for centuries?
Ancient Book of Enoch is a book that was quite popular during the first 700 years of church history, but then faded from sight. Nobody republished it. It disappeared until the Book of Enoch was rediscovered in the Ethiopian region of Abyssinia.
Only to reappear and shake the foundations of religious history? Welcome to the fascinating world of the Book of Enoch, a text that's been captivating scholars, believers, and conspiracy theorists alike for thousands of years. Enoch's secret writings. The Book of Enoch is an ancient Jewish religious text, believed to have been written by Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. This mysterious book, lost for centuries, has captivated scholars and believers alike with its vivid descriptions of angels, demons, and apocalyptic visions. But who was Enoch, and why is his book so important? Enoch, mentioned briefly in the Bible's book of Genesis, was said to have walked with God and was taken directly to heaven without experiencing death. This unique fate sparked curiosity and legends about Enoch's special relationship with the divine. The Book of Enoch expands on his story, offering a glimpse into a world of celestial beings and cosmic secrets. The text of the Book of Enoch was lost to Western civilization for over 1,000 years. It was known only through brief mentions in other ancient writings. How could such an important religious text simply vanish from history? The answer lies in its complex journey through time and across cultures. Originally written in ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, the Book of Enoch was popular among early Jewish communities. It influenced many early Christian writers and was even quoted in the New Testament's Book of Jude. However, as official religious canons were established, the Book of Enoch was left out of most Jewish and Christian biblical collections. This exclusion led to its gradual disappearance from common knowledge in the Western world. The rediscovery of the Book of Enoch is a tale of adventure and scholarly detective work. In 1773, James Bruce, a Scottish explorer, returned from Ethiopia with 3 Ethiopic manuscripts of the book. These texts, written in Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language, had been preserved by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which considered the Book of Enoch canonical. Bruce's discovery sparked renewed interest in the lost text. Scholars began translating and studying the Ethiopic version, but many questions remained. Was this the same book mentioned in ancient sources? Were there other versions out there? The mystery deepened in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with the discovery of Aramaic fragments of the Book of Enoch among the Dead Sea Scrolls. These ancient Jewish texts found in caves near the Dead Sea confirmed that the Ethiopian version was indeed based on much older sources. They also provided valuable insights into the original language and content of the book. Today, the Book of Enoch is recognized as a crucial text for understanding the religious landscape of Second Temple Judaism, the period from about 516 BCE to 70 CE. Its importance in religious studies cannot be overstated. The book offers a unique window into the development of Jewish and Christian beliefs about angels, demons, the afterlife, and the coming of a messianic figure. One of the most interesting aspects of the Book of Enoch is its influence on other religious texts. Many of its themes and ideas can be traced in later Jewish and Christian writings. For example, the concept of fallen angels elaborated in the Book of Enoch shaped later understandings of Satan and demonic forces. The vivid descriptions of heavenly realms and apocalyptic visions influence similar accounts in other religious texts. The Book of Enoch also provides valuable context for understanding certain passages in the Bible. Its detailed accounts of angelic beings and cosmic order help explain some of the more cryptic references in biblical texts. For instance, the brief mention of the sons of God mating with human women in Genesis 6 is expanded into a full narrative in the Book of Enoch, offering a possible interpretation of this puzzling biblical passage. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Book of Enoch is its air of mystery and forbidden knowledge. Why was this text, once so popular, excluded from most biblical canons? What secrets might it contain that were deemed too controversial or dangerous for general consumption? These questions have fueled countless theories and interpretations over the years. Some see the Book of Enoch as a key to understanding hidden spiritual truths, while others view it as an important historical document that sheds light on ancient religious beliefs. Regardless of one's perspective, the Book of Enoch continues to fascinate and challenge readers with its enigmatic content. The text also introduces us to the Watchers, a group of angels who play a central role in the book's narrative. But who exactly were these Watchers, and what was their significance in the grand scheme of Enoch's revelations? Angels and demons, the heavenly drama. The Watchers, also known as the Sons of God or the Sons of Heaven, were angelic beings tasked with observing humanity. According to the Book of Enoch, there were 200 of these angels, led by 20 captains. Their names, such as Simjaza, Azazel, and Sariel, evoke a sense of otherworldly power and mystery. Captivated by the beauty of human women, the Watchers chose to descend to Earth and take these women as wives. This act of rebellion against the natural order had far-reaching consequences. The offspring of these unions between Watchers and humans were the Nephilim, giant beings of tremendous strength and appetite. The Book of Enoch describes these creatures as voracious consumers who eventually turned to cannibalism when Earth's resources could no longer sustain them. Their presence on Earth brought chaos and destruction, disrupting the balance of nature and human society. But the Watchers' transgressions didn't stop at procreation. The Book of Enoch tells us that they also shared forbidden knowledge with humanity. Azazel, one of the leaders, taught humans the arts of metallurgy and weaponry. Other Watchers introduced cosmetics, jewelry making, astrology, and even magic. This transfer of celestial knowledge to humans was seen as a grave violation of divine order. The actions of the Watchers and the havoc wreaked by the Nephilim eventually drew divine intervention. The archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel approached God with the cries of suffering humanity. In response, God sent these archangels to enact judgment on the Watchers and their offspring. The punishment of the Watchers is described in vivid detail. Azazel was bound hand and foot and cast into darkness, buried beneath jagged rocks in the desert. The other Watchers were imprisoned within the earth, condemned to await final judgment at the end of time. Their giant offspring, the Nephilim, were destroyed in a great flood, an event that some scholars connect to the biblical flood story. This account of the Watchers' fall introduces us to a complex hierarchy of celestial beings. Beyond the rebellious Watchers, we encounter archangels who serve as God's messengers and agents of divine justice. The Book of Enoch expands on traditional angelology, describing various classes of angels with specific roles and characteristics. For instance, the text speaks of the cherubim, seraphim, and aphanim as guardians of God's throne. It describes angels responsible for natural phenomena like thunder and lightning, and others tasked with guiding the movements of stars and planets. This rich angelic lore would go on to influence later Jewish and Christian angelology. But what about demons? The Book of Enoch provides a unique perspective on the origin of these malevolent spirits. According to the text, when the Nephilim were destroyed, their disembodied spirits remained on earth as demons. These entities, born from the illicit union of angels and humans, were neither fully celestial nor fully terrestrial. Cursed to roam the earth without physical form, they became a source of temptation and torment for humanity. This origin story for demons differs significantly from later traditions that associate demons primarily with fallen angels. In the Book of Enoch, demons are a distinct category of beings, the tragic remnants of a cosmic mistake. The impact of these supernatural beings on humanity is a central theme in the Book of Enoch. The text suggests that much of human suffering and sin can be traced back to the actions of the Watchers and the ongoing influence of demons. It presents a world where humans are caught in the crossfire of cosmic conflicts, influenced by forces beyond their full comprehension. Yet the Book of Enoch doesn't portray humans as mere pawns in this celestial drama. It emphasizes human free will and the importance of righteous behavior in the face of supernatural temptation. Enoch himself serves as an example of a human who, through his righteousness, was able to transcend earthly limitations and commune with celestial beings. The supernatural worldview presented in the Book of Enoch raises profound questions about the nature of good and evil, free will, and the relationship between the divine and the human. If angels could rebel against God, what does this say about the concept of free will in the spiritual realm? And if humans can be influenced by both angelic and demonic forces, how does this affect our understanding of moral responsibility? These questions have puzzled theologians, philosophers, and ordinary readers for centuries. The Book of Enoch's vivid depictions of angels, demons, and cosmic warfare have left an indelible mark on religious and cultural imagination. Its influence can be seen in later apocalyptic literature, mystical traditions, and even modern popular culture. But the Book of Enoch offers more than just a dramatic story of celestial beings and cosmic conflicts. It also presents a series of prophetic visions and revelations granted to Enoch during his heavenly journeys. What secrets of the universe did Enoch uncover in his cosmic travels? And how did these visions shape his understanding of the future? Visions of the future. Enoch's journey through the celestial realms is one of the most captivating aspects of the Book of Enoch. Unlike many biblical figures, Enoch is granted a comprehensive tour of the heavens, witnessing sights that no mortal had seen before. His cosmic travels take him through multiple heavens, each with its own wonders and revelations. In the first heaven, Enoch encounters the storehouses of snow and dew, guarded by angels. The second heaven holds imprisoned angels awaiting judgment. The third heaven contains both paradise, a place of incredible beauty for the righteous, and a place of terrible punishment for sinners. As Enoch ascends higher, he witnesses increasingly profound and mysterious sights. One of the most striking visions occurs in the seventh heaven, where Enoch sees the throne of God. He describes it as made of fire, with wheels of burning flame. Around the throne are the seraphim, cherubim, and Ophanim, singing praises without ceasing. This vision of God's throne, with its fiery imagery and angelic choirs, would influence later apocalyptic and mystical literature. But Enoch's journey isn't limited to the heavens. He also travels to the edges of the earth, witnessing the pillars that support the sky and the places where the heavenly luminaries rise and set. He sees the storehouses of the winds and the cornerstone of the earth. These cosmological visions present a unique view of the universe's structure, blending ancient Near Eastern cosmology with divine revelation. One of the most enigmatic locations Enoch visits is the place of final judgment. Here he sees a chaotic and terrible place where the fallen angels are imprisoned. This vision of divine justice and cosmic order reinforces the book's themes of righteousness and judgment. Throughout his journeys, Enoch is guided by angels who explain the significance of what he sees. These angelic interpreters play a crucial role, translating the cosmic mysteries into terms Enoch can understand. They reveal to him the names of stars, the workings of celestial bodies, and the fates of both the righteous and the wicked. But what makes Enoch's visions truly remarkable are the prophecies and predictions they contain. The Book of Enoch is filled with apocalyptic forecasts, outlining events that will unfold in the future. These prophecies cover a vast span of time, from Enoch's own era to the final judgment at the end of days. One of the most significant prophetic sections is the Apocalypse of Weeks. This passage divides world history into 10 weeks, each representing a period of time. The events described in these weeks align with major moments in biblical history, including the flood, the exodus from Egypt, and the building of Solomon's temple. The later weeks become increasingly apocalyptic, describing a period of increasing wickedness followed by divine judgment. The 10th and final week culminates in the establishment of a new heaven and the beginning of many weeks without number, an eternity of righteousness. Another crucial prophetic element in the Book of Enoch is its development of messianic concepts. The text speaks of a figure called the Son of Man, a heavenly being who will come to earth to execute judgment and establish righteousness. This Son of Man is described as existing before creation, chosen by God to fulfill a special purpose. The Book of Enoch's portrayal of this messianic figure is particularly intriguing. It blends characteristics of a heavenly, pre-existent being with those of an earthly judge and savior. This complex depiction would have a significant influence on later messianic expectations in both Judaism and Christianity. But what did these visions and prophecies mean for Enoch himself? How did they transform his understanding of the cosmos and humanity's place within it? The text suggests that Enoch's cosmic journey profoundly changed him. After witnessing the glories of heaven and the terrors of divine judgment, Enoch returns to earth with a mission. He becomes a preacher of righteousness, warning his children and grandchildren about the importance of living justly in the face of coming judgment. Enoch's message is urgent and uncompromising. He speaks of a great judgment that will come upon the world, where the actions of every individual will be weighed. The righteous will be rewarded with blessings, while the wicked will face severe punishment. This emphasis on individual moral responsibility is a key theme throughout the book. One of the most poignant moments in the Book of Enoch occurs when he gathers his family to share his final teachings before being taken to heaven. He exhorts them to observe the paths of righteousness and to pass on his teachings to future generations. This scene underscores the book's focus on the transmission of divine knowledge from one generation to the next. The prophecies in the Book of Enoch also touch on cosmic themes beyond human history. Enoch foretells changes in the natural order, including alterations in the movements of celestial bodies and in the timing of seasons. These predictions blend astronomical observations with apocalyptic expectations, creating a unique vision of cosmic upheaval. One particularly intriguing prophecy speaks of a time when sinners shall be delivered into the hands of the righteous. This reversal of fortunes, where the oppressed become the judges of their oppressors, is a common theme in apocalyptic literature. In the Book of Enoch, it's presented as part of a grand cosmic rebalancing where divine justice finally prevails over earthly injustice. The Book of Enoch's visions of the future also include detailed descriptions of the afterlife. Enoch sees the places where souls await judgment, including separate areas for the righteous and the wicked. These vivid portrayals of post-mortem existence would influence later Jewish and Christian concepts of heaven, hell, and purgatory. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of Enoch's visions is how they connect the cosmic and the personal. While describing grand universe-spanning events, the book never loses sight of individual human choice and responsibility. It presents a worldview where every action has cosmic significance and where personal righteousness is intimately connected to the fate of the entire world. The prophecies and visions in the Book of Enoch paint a complex picture of the future, blending hope and judgment, cosmic upheaval, and divine order. They offer a unique perspective on human history and destiny, seen through the eyes of a man who walked between the earthly and the divine. But how have these ancient visions and prophecies been received over time? What impact has the Book of Enoch had on religious thought and practice? And how is it viewed in the modern world? Legacy and controversy. The Book of Enoch's journey through history is as intriguing as its content. Despite its exclusion from most biblical canons, its influence on religious thought and culture has been profound and lasting. Today, it continues to spark debate, inspire research, and captivate readers across the globe. One of the most significant impacts of the Book of Enoch is its influence on other religious texts and traditions. In Judaism, while not considered canonical, elements of the book found their way into rabbinic literature and mystical traditions. The concept of fallen angels and the expanded stories of antediluvian or pre-flood history shaped Jewish folklore and theological discussions for centuries. In Christianity, the Book of Enoch's influence is even more pronounced, or its detailed descriptions of the heavenly realm, which some felt bordered on revealing divine secrets. The book's exclusion from the canon, however, didn't end its influence. It continued to circulate in various forms, often incorporated into other pseudepigraphical works or referenced in religious commentaries. Its themes and imagery found their way into art, literature, and popular culture, often without direct attribution. In modern times, the Book of Enoch has experienced a remarkable resurgence of interest. The discovery of Aramaic fragments among the Dead Sea Scrolls in the mid-20th century reignited scholarly attention. These fragments not only confirmed the antiquity of the text, but also provided valuable insights into its original language and composition. Academic interest in the Book of Enoch has grown steadily since then. Universities around the world now offer courses on the book, examining its historical context, literary features, and theological implications. Scholarly conferences dedicated to Enoch studies have become regular events, attracting researchers from diverse fields including religious studies, ancient history, and comparative literature. But the book's appeal extends far beyond academia. In recent years, there has been a surge of popular interest in the Book of Enoch. This renewed fascination can be attributed to several factors. The internet has made the text more accessible than ever before, with multiple translations available online. Social media and online forums have become platforms for discussion and interpretation of the book's more enigmatic passages. The Book of Enoch has also found a place in popular culture. References to the book appear in novels, films, and television shows, often in connection with supernatural or apocalyptic themes. This pop culture presence has introduced the book to new audiences, sparking curiosity about its origins and content. However, this popularization has also led to some controversial interpretations. Some fringe groups have used the Book of Enoch to support various conspiracy theories or alternative histories. These range from claims about ancient alien visitations to predictions of imminent apocalyptic events. While these interpretations are generally dismissed by scholars, they highlight the book's enduring power to captivate imagination and spark speculation. In the realm of more mainstream religious thought, the Book of Enoch continues to be a subject of debate. Some religious leaders argue for a reevaluation of its status, suggesting that its exclusion from the canon should be reconsidered in light of its historical importance and early Christian use. Others maintain that while the book is valuable for historical study, it should not be accorded scriptural status. Recent years have seen some intriguing developments in Enoch studies. In 2023, a team of researchers announced the discovery of new fragments of the Book of Enoch in a previously unexplored cave near the Dead Sea. While the authenticity and significance of these fragments are still being evaluated, the find has reignited discussions about the text's origins and transmission. Another recent trend is the application of digital humanities techniques to the study of the Book of Enoch. Scholars are using advanced textual analysis software to compare different versions of the text, track its evolution over time, and identify potential sources or influences. This digital approach is yielding new insights into the book's composition and reception history. The Book of Enoch has also become a focus of interfaith dialogue. Its presence in Ethiopian Orthodox canon, its historical importance in Judaism, and its influence on early Christianity make it a unique point of connection between different religious traditions. Interfaith conferences and study groups have used the book as a starting point for discussions about shared heritage and diverse interpretations. But perhaps the most profound question raised by the Book of Enoch's legacy is this: what does its enduring appeal say about human nature and our quest for understanding? Why does this ancient text continue to resonate with readers across cultures and centuries? The answers may lie in the book's unique blend of cosmic drama and personal morality, its vivid imagery and profound spiritual insights. It speaks to fundamental human questions about good and evil, justice and mercy, the seen and the unseen. In a world that often seems chaotic and unpredictable, the Book of Enoch offers a vision of cosmic order and ultimate justice. As we continue to grapple with the Book of Enoch's legacy, one thing is clear: this ancient text has lost none of its power to provoke thought, inspire imagination, and challenge our understanding of the world. In light of the Book of Enoch's complex history and ongoing influence, bronze gears that baffled the world, with 300 tons of cargo weighing it down, that ship wasn't exactly nimble. It struggled, took a beating from the relentless waves, and, well, it ended the only way it could, sinking to the bottom of the sea. Among the treasure lay a secret that would rewrite history. For over 2,000 years, that ship sat forgotten, a relic swallowed by the ocean. Just another story lost to time. It could have stayed that way forever, just one of countless ships that met a watery fate. But fate had other ideas. A sponge diver from a tiny town called Simi made a dive and stumbled upon something unexpected: a corroded bronze hand sticking out from the seabed. Despite years underwater, it was still recognizable. The diver reported it, and with help from the Greek government, they began bringing up treasures from the depths: statues made of bronze and marble, broken pots, and countless fragments. It turned out to be the biggest collection of Greek artifacts ever discovered. They took everything to Athens, eager to study the treasure. In the middle of all the excitement, there was this weird, crusty lump of bronze just sitting there, pretty much ignored. Then after a few months, it dried up and split open. Inside, they found something no one expected: a large wheel, engraved letters, and smaller gears. It looked like an ancient machine, a sophisticated device that seemed far too advanced for its time. This thing, later called the Antikythera mechanism, was 1,000 years ahead of anything people thought possible back then. For more than a century, experts from all over the world, archaeologists, engineers, physicists, tried to crack the mystery behind this strange machine. The first person to really dig into it was a Greek archaeologist named Valerios Stais. He saw the traces of gears and figured it had to be some kind of ancient clock. But here's the kicker. Mechanical clocks weren't invented until the Renaissance, over 1,000 years later. Sure, there were mentions of toothed wheels in ancient texts, but no one had actually found gears from that time until now. Stais realized he needed help and called in experts in ancient texts, John Sphoronos and Adolf Wilhelm. They started deciphering the engravings, realizing it was written in ancient Greek. Another scientist, Pericles Rediatis, examined the inscriptions and found a particular word that stood out, an unusual term for the zodiac scale, the system dividing the year into 12 constellations. Rediatis and Sphoronos concluded that this strange device had to be an astrolabe, an old instrument for tracking the positions of stars and planets. But here was the problem. Traditional astrolabes didn't need gears. Maybe, just maybe, this peculiar device was capable of mechanically calculating the positions of celestial bodies. In the years that followed, the fragments were carefully cleaned, and an expert in ancient languages from Germany, Albert Rehm, came to Athens to examine the device. He found another previously hidden word, an ancient Egyptian month written in Greek letters. Rehm argued that the machine might have been able to simulate the movement of celestial bodies throughout the year. It was a promising lead, but progress soon stalled. World events intervened, 2 world wars came and went, and the mechanism was largely forgotten, stored away in a dusty crate. By the time the mid-20th century rolled around, technology had made significant leaps. In 1953, a new wave of divers took to the waters near Antikythera, including Jacques Cousteau, the famous filmmaker and diving pioneer. Thanks to advancements in diving equipment, they could go deeper than the old sponge divers ever could. There were always rumors of treasures lying just out of reach beneath the wreck, and Cousteau's team was determined to find them. After days of searching, they uncovered part of the sunken ship's hull, remarkably well preserved, but they didn't have the right gear to dig it up, and it would take 2 more decades before they returned with better equipment and a camera to document everything. Even with all their efforts, they didn't find any new parts of the mysterious mechanism. Still, science kept moving forward. In the 1960s, Derek de Solla Price, a British historian of science, used newly developed X-ray technology to scan the fragments. He discovered more gears and managed to build the first model of the Antikythera mechanism, calling it a calendar computer. But Price's model was flawed. To make it work, he had to alter the number of teeth on the gears, ignoring what the X-rays actually showed. Later, 2 researchers, Michael Wright and Alan Bromley, noticed Price's mistakes. They decided to take matters into their own hands and solve the mechanism's mystery. They traveled to Athens and spent a month examining, measuring, and photographing the 82 remaining pieces of the device. But after all those years, the fragments were in rough shape and a more in-depth look was needed. They turned to a technique called tomography, which involves taking multiple image slices and putting them together to create a detailed picture of the object's interior. With 700 images in hand, they got a clearer view of the inner workings of the mechanism. For years, they worked on piecing together the puzzle. Then, out of nowhere, Bromley severed ties with Wright, accusing him of taking credit for their joint work. Bromley took the images and left, but he never solved the puzzle. Years later, diagnosed with cancer, he admitted to Wright that he wanted to be known as the one who solved the Antikythera mechanism. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish the job. On his deathbed, Bromley handed over the scans to Wright. With new technology, new minds stepped in to continue solving the puzzle. An analog marvel lost to time. By 2002, Wright had already built a prototype, but with the new scans, he thought he could finally crack the code. Yet it still wasn't enough. Enter Tony Freeth, a mathematician and filmmaker. Freeth gathered a group of researchers under the Antikythera Mechanism Research Project. They scanned and measured the fragments yet again, this time with even better technology. The resulting images were incredibly detailed. Even the smallest inscriptions hidden deep in the stone were now clear. They regularly published papers on their findings, and there were even more expeditions to the wreck site, but no new pieces of the mechanism were found. In 2021, Freeth and his team managed to put all the puzzle pieces together. They combined everything they had learned over the past century into a single, coherent model. Finally, the mystery of the world's oldest computer was solved. What exactly did this thing do? A computer is any device that can store and process information. Technically, anything that can solve math problems and display the answer counts as a computer. There are two types: digital, like the one you're reading this on, and analog. The Antikythera mechanism was an analog computer. Imagine this: you need to solve 8 times 2. A digital computer translates that into binary and processes the calculation using ones and zeros. An analog computer, on the other hand, can solve it using gears. Think of a small gear with 8 teeth meshing with a larger gear with 16. Each time the larger gear turns, the smaller one turns twice, effectively multiplying by 2. The Antikythera mechanism worked in a similar way, but it was far more complex. Originally, it was housed in a wooden box with a handle on the side to operate its intricate inner workings. Turning the handle moved a series of pointers on the front and back of the device. The ancient Greeks believed Earth was at the center of the universe. So Earth sat in the middle of the mechanism, with the moon, the sun, and the 5 known planets orbiting around it. There were also rings for Egyptian months, zodiac constellations, and other astronomical markers. The front was covered with instructions for using it, while the back featured 2 spiral dials, one for the 19-year Metonic cycle, which was the basis for many ancient calendars, and another for the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. The lower dial was an eclipse predictor. Essentially, the Antikythera mechanism was a sophisticated model of the cosmos. You could pick any date, and the machine would show the positions of the moon, planets, and stars, or even predict upcoming eclipses. It was all packed into a wooden box roughly the size of a book. Who used it? Maybe astronomers or teachers, but some clues suggest it might not have been a practical tool at all. Instead, it might have been a luxury item, a very impressive, very expensive toy for someone rich enough to afford it. It might have even been used to cast horoscopes, as astrology was popular in ancient Greece, just as it is for some people today. 2,000 years ago, a wealthy owner took this marvelous device along on a trip to Rome, but of course they never reached their destination. The ship went down in the storm, and with it, this ancient computer, a technological marvel that shouldn't have existed. Here is the catch. The Antikythera mechanism wasn't all that accurate. The ancient Greeks didn't have the sophisticated tools we have today. They observed the skies, wrote down what they saw, and tried to make sense of it. For example, if you watch Mercury long enough, you'll notice it seems to slow down, stop, and move backward before continuing forward again. This apparent backward motion is called retrograde, and it happens with all planets due to their orbits. The geocentric model the Greeks used, which put Earth at the center, was complicated, with planets moving in little loops called epicycles. Translating this into gears was incredibly challenging, which is why the mechanism's interior was so intricate. And because of the limitations in their understanding, the device was prone to mechanical errors. In fact, it was off by about an entire zodiac sign. Despite its flaws, the Antikythera mechanism was still an incredible achievement. For a long time, historians thought the Greeks were brilliant thinkers, but not very practical. Philosophy and art, yes, but complex mechanical devices? No way! And yet they did it. The Antikythera mechanism was so advanced that some people still believe it must have come from aliens or served as an ancient time machine. But the truth is, it was real, and it likely wasn't even the first of its kind. Ancient texts mention a similar device made by Archimedes, a sphere that modeled the sun, moon, and planets. But it was lost to time. But Greek ingenuity wasn't finished yet. Another figure was about to reshape history. The nation who outran time. The ancient Greeks were a pretty impressive bunch, no doubt about it. They didn't just sit around admiring the Parthenon or philosophizing under olive trees. They were inventing stuff that even modern minds find perplexing. There are some Greek discoveries and creations, such as the Antikythera mechanism, that really make one wonder how advanced they were for their time. Archimedes of Syracuse was the kind of guy who probably couldn't walk past a problem without trying to solve it. He created a bunch of cool stuff, like the compound pulley, which made moving heavy things a lot easier. Then there's the Archimedes screw, a simple but brilliant device for lifting water, which, by the way, people still use in some places today. But perhaps the wildest of his inventions was the so-called claw of Archimedes, a contraption that would grab and capsize enemy ships trying to attack Syracuse. He wasn't just all about inventions, though. Archimedes did some major work in mathematics too, figuring out the principle of levers and even buoyancy, concepts that helped lay the groundwork for science as we know it. He was a bit of a show-off in the best way possible, always finding solutions that others couldn't even imagine. Speaking of Archimedes, it turns out that some of his work got buried under centuries of dust and time, literally. The Archimedes palimpsest, an old parchment manuscript, was recycled in the 13th century to make room for religious texts. Thanks to modern technology, we can now read through the overwritten prayers and sermons to reveal lost works of Archimedes. It turns out there's more to his genius than just what the history books gave us. He had ideas about mechanical theorems and even early musings on infinity that were way ahead of his time. One can't help but think how different things might have been if people hadn't erased those texts. But that was just how things worked back then. People had different priorities, and old math got swapped for new prayers. Found in Crete back in 1908, the Phaistos disc is one of those ancient puzzles that just refuses to be solved. It's a clay disc from the 2nd millennium BCE with symbols stamped into it, spiraling outwards across both sides. Nobody knows what it says or what it was used for. A message from the gods? A form of record keeping? Or maybe a complex game that entertained Minoan nobles on rainy afternoons? No one has cracked the code yet, and honestly, after over a century of trying, some people are starting to think it might just be a really fancy decoration. Regardless, the Phaistos disc has everyone guessing, and it's a reminder that the ancient Greeks weren't just good with stone and bronze, they also had a flair for cryptic messages. Sometimes a discovery comes along that's like a window into the everyday lives of ancient people. The Kyrenia shipwreck, found off the coast of Cyprus in the 1960s, is just that, a merchant vessel from the 3rd century BCE that sank with its cargo still mostly intact. This ship carried almost 400 amphoras filled with almonds and wine, giving us a peek at what people back then were trading across the Mediterranean. Built over 2,000 years ago, its well-preserved remains have taught us loads about ancient shipbuilding techniques and maritime trade routes. They weren't just sending soldiers and philosophers out into the world, they were shipping snacks and drinks too, everyday commerce that shows a different side of Greek life. Standing proud at the harbor of Piraeus, the port of Athens, the Piraeus-Leon wasn't just about scaring off would-be invaders, it was also a sign of strength and artistic skill. This marble statue, dating to about 360 BCE, eventually ended up in Venice, where it's still standing today. What makes it even more fascinating are the runic carvings all over it, made by Scandinavian mercenaries who served in the Byzantine Empire. These inscriptions show that the world was a lot more connected than we sometimes think. Norse warriors traveled far from their frozen homelands, mingling with the Greeks in ways most people wouldn't expect. The Piraeus line is not just a piece of Greek art, it's a testament to how cultures collided and influenced one another, even in ancient times. Not every Greek engineer got the fame of Archimedes, but Philo of Byzantium was no slouch when it came to innovation. He created the polybolos, a repeating crossbow that was kind of like an ancient version of a machine gun. It had a chain mechanism allowing it to fire multiple bolts one after another, which must have been pretty terrifying on the battlefield back then. Philo also described other inventions like a water mill and a force pump, showing that he had a knack for making everyday tasks a bit easier with clever engineering. The Greeks clearly had a fascination with automating things, whether it was military tech or tools for everyday life. The Temple of Artemis at Ephesus was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and it wasn't just because it looked amazing. Built in the 6th century BCE, the temple had some pretty advanced features for its time, like a central heating system. Hot air circulated through channels beneath the floor, keeping things warm during those colder months. A reminder that the Greeks weren't just about grandeur, they also knew how to make their monuments comfortable. This temple is a good example of how Greek architecture was not just about impressing people, but also about using technology to solve practical problems. Finally, there's the art of Olympus, where early pebble mosaics were discovered. Dating back to the 5th century BCE, these mosaics weren't just about decoration, they were also an early attempt to make art a functional part of daily life. Floors decorated with scenes from mythology or geometric designs were found in homes, showing that the Greeks liked to mix beauty with utility. They could have just made boring old cobblestone floors, But why not make something that's nice to look at while walking around your house? These mosaics remind us that, for the Greeks, art wasn't confined to temples and statues. It was something to be enjoyed in everyday settings. The ancient Greeks were thinkers, builders, and dreamers who weren't afraid to try new things, some of which were astonishingly ahead of their time. Whether it was mechanical gadgets, engineering feats, mysterious symbols, or artful touches to everyday life, their contributions still leave us questioning just how much they knew, how they knew it, and what we might still learn from their ambitious spirit. Their legacy spans far beyond marble columns and philosophical debates. It is a testament to human ingenuity and the endless pursuit of knowledge. These discoveries and inventions remind us that history is full of unexpected surprises, and there is always more to learn from the past. They show that while the Greeks were flawed like everyone else, their creative brilliance was nothing short of extraordinary. Do you think modern society could ever surpass the innovative spirit of the ancient Greeks? Let us know in the comments, give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more intriguing content.